Know me, I am Samantha Rodriguez. I am from Mexico. I am 21 years. And I have this project about the Holocaust that it's called The Voice of the Silence. I started this project because of that I have Jewish and Polish ancestors that most of them were murdered at the Holocaust. And I think that it's so important to know about this topic. So we as young people, we can prevent to something similar to happen again. And today we are here with the school Blas Pascal from Merida, the middle school and high school, and we're so happy to have you here from the English groups. So I will give you the word, Teacher Sarah, if you want to say hello or something before we start.
Hi, my name is Miss Sarah, and I'm the advanced English teacher at Blas Pascal. And yes, we have our high schoolers and some of our middle schoolers here, and we are so excited for this opportunity to learn about history in our second language. So thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you so much, teacher, for the opportunity. It's so important that the students can know about what happened. And thank you everyone for being here. I hope you can learn a lot. You can ask questions in the chat, and in the end, we will answer them. So also thank you so much to Mr. Sidney Finkel that is here, that we are going to hear his story in some minutes. But before hearing his story, I am going just to tell you a little bit about what was the Holocaust. I just have an explanation of some minutes so you can know about it. Maybe some of you know what happened, right? But maybe some of you don't know so much. And sorry for my English. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm also Mexican. As you can see, I have this shirt from Yucatan. So yeah, I'm not in Yucatan, I am in Cuernavaca in Morelos, but I'm so grateful to be here. And I was a student from Blas Pascal. So I'm so happy to have this interview with the school that I was in. Okay, so let's start talking just this few minutes about the Holocaust. I will share just some photos, but it will be really quick, right? So we will start saying that the Holocaust was the systematic state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews and approximately 14 million of other different kinds of groups by the Nazi regime and its collaborators. The Nazis came to the power in Germany in 1933 with Hitler as chancellor. Hitler and the Nazis believed that the Aryans belonged to a race that was superior to all others. They say that the Jews belonged to a race that was inferior and a threat to the so-called German racial community. Nazis also persecuted other groups because they say they were inferior. These groups included Roma, Gypsy people, people with disabilities, Poles, Russians, communists, socialists, Soviet prisoners of war, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Black people, etc. The Nazis adopted measures to exclude Jews from the economic, social, and cultural life. They planned something called the final solution to the Jewish question. That meant the murder of all the Jews in Europe. They wanted to kill all the Jews of Europe. After occupying Poland in 1939, the German authorities confined the Jewish population in the so-called ghettos. Maybe you have heard about that word. The ghettos were enclosed districts that isolated Jews by separating the Jewish community from the non-Jewish population. They lived there in terrible conditions, segregated, dying of hunger, disease, overcrowding, and violence. In 1941, the Nazis began to kill more Jews with stationary, where is the photo? Just, okay, I think, with stationary gas chambers, and also they created the concentration camps, and also these gas chambers were taken into the extermination camps, because they were extermination camps that they were just obviously focused in killing people and other concentration and labor camps that people were like slaves, right? Slave labor. But of course, as you can see here, and maybe you have watched some movies or read some books, the conditions were inhuman, were terrible. And of course, Sidney is going to talk about that. He's a witness of this horror. Yeah, I was putting this for, okay, yeah, here just you can see the difference between all the prisoners. The different kind of prisoners of concentration camps used to have these different signs, like these triangles, depending on the category of people you were. So yes, most prisoners of the labor and concentration camps, and also the ghettos, as you can see here, that in the ghettos they were using the called the Jewish star, you know, the Star of David, the yellow one, so they knew they were Jewish. Most of the prisoners of the labor and concentration camps died from starvation, for hunger, of course, or disease, or they were killed, or maybe they were so weak to work and they were also killed by the Nazis. Life was a hell in those places. And I want you to imagine, because there were not just adults. Sidney was a kid and he's telling his story, right? So people our age or your age, people that were maybe studying middle school, maybe studying high school or even elementary school, children, they were taken to these terrible places. When the war was coming to its end, the Nazi guards moved camp prisoners by train or on forced marches, they called death marches, because of the health condition of them, the extreme conditions of weather, hunger, etc. We can see here the liberation of some concentration camps. The Allied forces moved across Europe attacking Germany, and they began to find and liberate concentration camps. Obviously the soldiers, they were in shock with what they found, as you can see here. Skeletic human beings, piles of dead people, disease, terror. It was just terrible, so frightening. Of course, I didn't put the worst pictures here because there are pictures that are so terrible and traumatizing. And just to end this little explanation, the war ended, Second World War, officially on May 7 of 1945, when the Germans surrounded to the Allies. Millions of people died, but by miracle or fate, some of them survived, as we can see Sidney, right? They are called Holocaust survivors. And they are living witnesses of this horror, so we can learn to not repeat it again. Today, we're going to hear the story of Sidney Finkel, the boy who refused to die. He was a child when the Holocaust happened and he survived. So let's just wait a minute because I think he's fixing something, but we're going to hear his story and we're so thankful for this. I know it was a really quick explanation, but I hope everyone maybe learned something new. Of course, you can also ask questions, and I think the one that it's answering also will be Sidney, right? Because he was a witness. He's a witness of these orders, as I told you. Okay, so just let me wait a minute because I see that Sidney, I think he went for something, but
go back and do it at the other one.
Oh, nice. Now I can see him in the computer.
Yeah, you can scoot up a little bit. Okay. Oh, there you go.
You just have to close down the other device. Great job. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Now we can see Mr. Sidney here in the, now he's in the computer, so.
I have my daughter from Chicago. She just arrived last night. And this is, she and my other daughter, Ruth, who's organized this thing. They're both savvy. They're both technically savvy. I used to be, but as you get older, it just leaves your brain.
Yes. So.
Well, I'm just glad that she got it sorted out. That was fantastic. Thank you, Jackie.
No, yes, and thank you everyone, and Ruth also. That Ruth is daughter of Sidney. That she helped to organize these meetings. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Sidney, I would like to start with some questions about your life, so we can know about what happened with you. So, can you tell us, please? Oh, no, it's okay. First of all, sorry.
You said meeting?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Do you want to say hello to the students? How are you today, Mr. Sidney?
I am good, thank you. I'm good because I'm really pleased. I got my daughter and son-in-law come and visit me in Tucson, which is wonderful. They all love me. And Lucy's done a really great job of getting all together. We've never done an international thing. You know, and this is really interesting, the fact that you told me about your grandfather being Polish, Jewish Polish, that brings us very close because that's what I am. I'm Polish Jewish.
Exactly.
So we have that in common. You know, your grandfather probably had. Did he come to Mexico before the war or after the war?
Oh yeah, Mr. Sidney is talking that I told him that my great grandfather, he was Jewish and from Poland. He came to Mexico before the war, so he didn't suffer the war and the Holocaust, but all his family
He
did.
was lucky. He came before the war.
Yes.
Do you know what he did for a living?
Yeah, he used to be an engineer. Actually, he came to Mexico to work as an engineer. So yeah, that's how he came to Mexico. And of course he didn't came along to the war. Well, sorry. Okay, so Mr. Sidney, we would like to know at first, can you tell us about your place of origin and in which year you were born? You know, how was your childhood before the war?
Okay, I was born in Poland in a town called Piotrków Trybunalski, and I was the youngest of a family of five. I was by far the youngest one, and my father was in business, and he had a timber yard and other ventures, so we were really a well-off family, and I was a happy kid because I was much younger than my other siblings, and I loved going to school, but there was a lot of anti-Semitism. You know, even when I would go to school, there were kids across the street that would throw stones at us, and I just didn't know why. And then I think that must be because I looked Jewish, so I would go to school with my face covering, my hands covering my face so they wouldn't see. So there was a lot of anti-Semitism. But still, Jewish people lived there for over 700 years, and we had a wonderful community. So I had a sister that was older than me, Ronya, and a brother.
I think I have this picture.
Yeah, I see it. You see my mother, it's the only picture I have of my mother to the right, and then my sister Ronya and my sister Lola, and my brother Isaac, who was in the army uniform. But I was the youngest one, so I could get away with anything. I was quite spoiled. I had a nice life, but you know, we would come summer, we would go to the countryside, and we had a good time. This all ended in 1939, in September the 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, and almost immediately they came for the Jews. You know, they put us into a ghetto. Maybe 5,000 people lived there before, and now about 15,000 people live there. So we had like a room and a half, maybe 2 rooms, and we were all crowded together. But yet we still had a regular communal life. You know, we did our Jewish religion and things like that. But then 2 years later, after living in the ghetto And it was very unsure because they would pick people off the streets and send them away to work, and you would never hear from them. Happened to a couple of cousins of mine. But what really was worrying us in 1942 was what we were seeing, was that the Germans were bringing in trains and putting the people on into these cattle cars, and they were going someplace, we didn't know where, but we had all kinds of rumors. And the Germans said, don't worry about it, you're going to go to a place where you're going to work and the conditions are pretty good. But there were people that escaped from there and came back, and they told us this absolutely horrible story that we couldn't bring ourselves to believe, is that everybody on those trains was murdered, was gassed. Then the Nazis had a big operation where they took all the people. And am I still on? It's doing something.
Yes. Well, I was going to actually ask you how old were you when the war started, so we can know,
Right. I was 8 years old.
Wow.
I was 8 years old. I went to the first grade. That's the only education that I had. I really didn't know how to read or write when the war was over, because for 6 years, we're not allowed, Jewish children were not allowed to be educated.
Yes, of course. And you were telling us that you were transported to a ghetto, right? When the war started, the Nazis invaded Poland and all this. So can you tell us how was the life in the ghetto? Like, what do you remember about that terrible place?
Yeah, life in the ghetto, although it was frightening, was almost normal, because even if we only had one room for the family, we still were family. We would still go to the synagogue, and we would observe all of the Jewish holidays. Like today is Yom Kippur. It's the holiest of the holiest days. Though I'm not a good Jew, I don't observe. But so we were hungry. There wasn't enough food. We were cold. There was not enough coal. But we got along. We got along, and our whole family was intact in the ghetto. But like I said before, there was no schools. Schools for Jewish children were not allowed. The total misery. What happened was when the Germans in 1942 decided that they were going to murder all the Jews, no matter where they lived. And this is where the trains came in to take the people into these camps that were actually had gas chambers. Were like my mother, my sister, they were both gassed in a place called Treblinka. My father stayed behind. He died from hard work and not enough food. My mother and my sister were, like I said before, they were put on the trains and went to this place in Treblinka where they were gassed. So out of 7, we had 4 left, something like that. My brother survived, my sister Lola survived, and I survived. That's 3 out of 7, I think, yeah.
Yes, I think obviously that this is like, we don't have words, right? We can't understand what happened to you, because it was so terrible to lose, your parents, your siblings, I think, yeah, it was such a horror, right? So, yeah, you told us you were in the ghetto. It was the Piotrków ghetto, right?
Right.
And then after the ghetto, what happened to you and your family? Can you tell us where were you deported?
Okay, after they organized this evacuation of the Jews on these cattle cars, we survived that by just sheer luck or my parents' influence. And then we were hiding in the buildings and so on because they went looking for the people that didn't have a right to stay behind. But eventually they moved on. And for some reasons I don't understand, but my parents had enough influence to take me with them to a workplace where we were fairly safe. We were in that workplace for a year and a half. It was like a slave labor camp. And then the war was almost over. But the Nazis decided that we were not going to be set free in our hometown. They took us and put us into a train. And this is for the very first time that I see I'm inside one of these cattle cars. And it's dirty and smelly and it's so crowded, you have no place to. As a matter of fact, I don't remember that much about it. My friends after the war used to say, don't you remember we had one cattle, something to do our business in? And I didn't remember. I had a complete blackout memory until we came into Germany, into a concentration camp called Buchenwald. So there I was separated. I was by myself. It was the first time in the war that I was by myself, that there was no brother, there was no father. I was on my own. And the conditions they book about for was absolutely awful. Just you can't imagine the sanitary conditions, the bathrooms. We wouldn't call it that. It's like it was totally covered. It was terrible. That there was still hope, and there was a good thing that happened because there was people in the camp who organized, and they decided that they were going to save the young people, and they did. They took us into a different barrack, and we got a little bit more food, but we got hope. We got hope that we're going to survive. And so this was like, okay, but then they wanted to evacuate the whole camp. And a lot of us hid and wouldn't let go outside. But Henry, I had a friend called Henry who I was with throughout the whole episode. He did, we were pulled out and we went on a march to Weimar. And this is what they call the blood road. It's people couldn't keep up, like there was a father and a son. And the father said to the son that he can't walk anymore. And the son was encouraging him to walk, but he tore himself away and he fell into the ditch. And then we saw a guard with a rifle and we heard a shot. This was people, there's hundreds of people that were killed on the road, on that road, because they couldn't keep up and walk. Then we were put on another train, and this was the worst of all, 3-week journey. Like half of us died. But the young people kept together. They all kept together. We all kept together. And whatever food we could organize, I think we shared. And it really I don't think anybody of the young people died. We came after 3 weeks to Theresienstadt. That was a wonderful day because the Nazis had fled and we were free. But then I got sick, I got typhus, and I thought I was going to die. But a lot of people from England and so on, young people like you guys, came there and they helped us. And I got well. And then I came to England with a group of boys called the Boys, who are well known today. Will you excuse me just a minute, please? Go ahead, talk to them.
Hi, I'm Barbara. He'll be right back.
I have a bladder problem.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, here we can see the picture of, here is Sidney and all the boys that were taken to England, right, after the war. He was saying, right, that the young people, as we are here, so they were taken to England. So, well, in the chat, I put that the first concentration camp that he was in is called Buchenwald. I showed the picture. I know that most of us, we know about Auschwitz, for example, that it's the most famous camp, but this Buchenwald, it was in Germany, and that was where Sidney was. So I was going to, okay, he's back. So yeah.
I'm back.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Oh, yes. Well, you were going to the point that you were taken to England, but before going to that, returning a little bit to, for example, to Buchenwald, I wanted to ask you, like, how was a day in Buchenwald? Can you describe us how was living a day in Buchenwald?
At first, it was utterly terrible. People were like skeletons and didn't have enough to eat or anything. And they looked like the faces were yellow and they were going to die. So it was but this underground group, they took us young people and put us into a special barrack for children. And their conditions were much better. They weren't too great, but they were much better. And I used to have to come out and stand on roll call for hours at a time until they were satisfied that every one was counted. And we had people who would die. We had to take their bodies and carry them to the appel plots of the roll call place. But these people, underground people, many of them were not Jewish. They were able to organize, and there was, at the end, when they were liberated, there was 900 children in Buchenwald. But if we had gone onto the train, they were lucky. It's like, you know, we didn't want to go out, but we were forced to go out and go and march. But there was an air raid afterwards, and people stayed inside. They didn't go, and they were liberated on April the 11th, I think, 1945. Yeah. So it was, my brother was in Buchenwald, my father was in Buchenwald, my uncle, my two cousins. This is one thing that really makes me very unhappy. I saw my uncle and two of my favorite cousins in a place. Then we escaped there And they're gone. They were trying to find records for them. We couldn't find it. They were murdered like a day before liberation, 2 days before liberation. And my aunt, their wife, survived the war, and she went back to Poland, to Piotrków, and claimed her house, and she was murdered by Poles. She's in the Jewish cemetery in Piotrków.
Sorry, I think I got like frozen. I don't know. So I connected in my phone, and my computer was, I don't know, it froze. But okay, I'm here. Yes, of course, I heard everything that you said about that. Actually, for example, that aunt that survived, she was killed after the war, and I think, well, that's so terrible, and that you saw how your cousins and your uncle were murdered right in the concentration camp. Um, can you tell us? Well, I think you told us that, of course, you were in charge of different things, but for example, I think it's for us it's too difficult to think that they were a lot of children and they were working, like useful to the Nazis, because in some other camps they weren't. Children were like killed immediately, right? So, what was the labor of the kids, of the children in Buchenwald?
What was your work in Buchenwald?
And I was pretty lucky. I was assigned to a
Yes.
bricklaying team. And we worked in the kitchen, the central kitchen. So that was like fantastic. We had enough to eat. But I was very ambitious, though I didn't follow the rules. And I took some potatoes and put it in my pants. And I got searched when I left the kitchen. And that was a big offense, to steal food from the central kitchen. And they punished me very severely for doing that. But it's okay. I made it, and I had food. So this is it's really, Buchenwald is I think the most important thing, or the most interesting thing, was that how many kids were saved in Buchenwald. There was not a place where they killed you or anything else. You die of starvation and disease.
Yes, I think it was amazing that the resistance, right, from Buchenwald, as you told them, like the underground, they helped children to survive. And I actually recently I read a book about Buchenwald that actually it's really interesting, because we interviewed here the author, that it's a book about a Mexican that was in Buchenwald, that is called, well, in Spanish it will be, in English, the Mexican of Buchenwald. And I was reading there, right, that there was like a really huge net of underground in Buchenwald. So yeah, I think it was kind of a miracle, right, that they helped children. So that's why you are here today, right, because they helped you survive.
That's true. We don't know why the Nazis tolerated so many children, but it was almost to the end of the war. They were frightened a little bit about killing us, I guess. So, yeah, it's a very interesting story about the children of Buchenwald. Most of them were liberated by the American Army on the 11th of April, 1945. But me and Henry were not that lucky. We had to go on that march and go on that awful open train. you can't believe the conditions there. It was just, there was no sanitary conditions, there was no washroom, you're just full of filth, and you catch disease, what is it? Typhus. I got typhus when I got to Theresienstadt, and I thought I was going to die, but I had this feelings that I should survive, that my parents wanted me to survive, and I did. And I'm here talking to you.
Yes, I obviously, well, I can, maybe it's my opinion, but of course, every one that survived, it was a miracle, right? Can you tell us, like, what was the most difficult memory you can remember by now of those years of the war and the Holocaust?
The most difficult was the train ride. It lasted 3 weeks. It was open. There was no food. It was raining. It was soaked. People died like flies on that train. It's a miracle that the young people survived. We got some food. Sometimes we got some food from outside. When we go to the river to get some water, I would knock on doors because I was the youngest one. They made me go there and ask the German people for some food. And one lady gave me a loaf of bread, which was pretty terrific.
Yes, I read that in your book, and if anyone from here hasn't read it, I think the teachers send the students about the book, but you should read Sidney's book because all the story is so well described by him, and well, it's so frightening but so important. And yes, I know, well, I read, right, about that experience in the train, the last train to Terezin, that it was in Czech Republic, right, that concentration camp. With the rain, as you were saying, the train hasn't this roof. All the people were dying, the hunger, right? So I think, yeah.
Actually, we were bombed too. The Americans were bombing everything that moved, and but we used to take our coats and we used to wave at the planes to let them know that we're not the bad guys. And
yes.
It worked.
Okay, well, then you told us obviously that you arrived to Theresienstadt in Czech Republic, that you had typhus. Of course, that was a terrible disease in that time. Everyone was dying of that, right? Because it was a really bad disease. And you also were explaining us how did you get to England. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you went to England and what happened to you in England after the war, please?
Yes, we all went, most of us, a lot of us went to it. The boys went to a camp in Windermere, England, which is the Lake District. And we have pictures of arriving at the train, and they taught us. We went to school. I learned to ride a bicycle. I was 13 years old, and I didn't know how to ride a bike. And they were very good to us. And then they sent me to school, to a boarding school. And I was way behind. Like I said, I didn't know how to read and write. And I had no education at all, but they were just so wonderful. The teachers, they just stayed with me until I learned to speak English, and then that was so fantastic because I could read books and things. Unfortunately, the school, for financial reasons, they closed a year too early. I needed another couple of years of that school. Would have made a difference in my life. But
Yes.
today I have a PhD from the University of what?
San Xavier.
San Xavier.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think for us as students, we should like value, right, that we can study. You were so happy to have the opportunity to study after the war because, as you told us, you weren't able. Jewish people wasn't able to study, right? Obviously, when the war started, and then obviously most of Polish, Jewish people were deported and all this. But I'm so glad, right, that the English people they took you to England so you can like start building a new life and studying, and maybe kind of recovering from what happened. That it was obviously terrible. Can you tell us about when you reunite with your relatives that were still alive, like your brother or something?
After the war, my brother, I tell in the book, he walks the streets of Theresienstadt calling Savak because he heard that a bunch of kids from Buchenwald had come in. So I looked out the window and I saw him, and it was a very emotional reunion. And now I had somebody that was going to make all the decisions for me, and I was just going to follow him. My sister, Lola, she found us. She came to Theresienstadt, but she couldn't go to us to England. So she waited a while and went to America. She was the first one of our family to come to America.
Wow, I think obviously it was amazing, like unbelievable, right? To meet with these relatives as your brother, your sister, after all these horrors, right? It maybe was obviously like a relief to you, like, oh, I have family, but at the same time, you missed all your the other relatives that unfortunately they didn't make it, right? So tell us, how did you end up in the U.S.?
So would you say that again, please?
How did you get to the United States?
How did you get to the U.S.?
Oh, I had an uncle that moved to America before the war, and it took a while, but they sent me papers. It was very difficult to come to America. You had to promise that you were not going to take money from anybody or anything. So they sent all the papers to me, and I came to the American Embassy in London, and then they just gave me my visa. That was one of the happiest days in my life, that I was shouting that I was going to come to America. So that's how I came to America, on a boat, the Libertaire, beautiful ship. And in America, I got a job, and I worked at a company for 40 years. And I got married, and I had married. I had 2 children, and then I got divorced, and I married another wonderful lady who had 2 little girls who were just wonderful. So that's all my family, and I'm going to be 90 years old in December, and most of my family is going to come to Tucson to celebrate. It, that might be, I don't know, the last time that I'll see them because I have cancer, bladder cancer, and I don't know how long I'm going to be around. So it'd be good to see them.
Oh, I think it's amazing that, of course, you could rebuild your life. Sorry, I think the sound is bad, but that you were able to have this family, you know, came to the US and then marry and have the wonderful children you have, such as Ruth. And I think it's amazing. And well, talking about Ruth and all this, because I know she has to do a lot, but what I'm going to want to question is that how did you start to tell your story?
Are you asking Ruth?
No, like, how did you start to tell your story about the Holocaust?
Okay, we were, like I tell in my book, I go to see my daughter Ruth, who was pregnant at the time with my Ike, and we talked about it, and the Holocaust Museum was opening up in Washington. So we decided we were all going to go and went to the Holocaust Museum, and I could hear and see the history explained, how the Nazis came to power. But then in another room, there was a train, there was a car. And when I saw that, I broke up. I started crying, and I had my wife with me and hugged her and my children. And that was really moving to go to the Holocaust Museum. And from my son was a friend with a teacher, and she wanted me to come to the school and speak, and I had no idea what to say or anything, and I made all kinds of notes and so on. But once I just went to the school, the children were so receptive that I never looked at my notes, and I was able to talk, and they were really interested. They liked me being there. So I thought to myself, wow, I must have something that's of interest to others. And I've been talking to schools for 20 years. I don't know how many, 100, 200 schools, thousands and thousands of children. So this has been my career, and I like doing this, and I'm glad I have the opportunity of doing this because, you know, we're not going to be around.
Yes, exactly. I think that, for example, the purpose that you had after the war and all this, obviously in part it was telling your story, right? As you said, of course, each day we have less Holocaust survivors because, of course, of course, every day we have less of you, but that's why we are doing this, you know, to pass on the torch, you know, of the memory of your story, of the story of every survivor we have heard in these interviews, and maybe in other places we have heard survivors. But yeah, we are so grateful and we are so blessed to have you here today, so we can hear you, a living witness of what happened, right? My last question, and then we are going to there are two questions just, and then the students are going to ask you. There are some questions. So the first, no, sorry, I got nervous because my computer failed, but okay. Did you ever return to Poland or Buchenwald?
No, I never returned to. I returned to Buchenwald twice. They have on the 11th of April, they have a memorial, and the invite quite a few different Holocaust survivors. And I was there with Ruth and Leon. And then I went to, another time I went was Barbara. I have to tell you that something real tragic happened to me. My wife of almost 50 years died. And that was like the worst thing that ever, that was nothing compared to what I suffered in the Holocaust. But I healed and I wanted to live and have a companion. So I went online. Tell them the story. They love that.
Sidney decided that he wanted to see if there was a woman that he could have life with after he'd lost his wife. And I decided I would like to have a companion. And so we went online. That's kind of how people find each other nowadays. And so I read his profile and he read mine and we got together and here we are 7 years later. So.
Oh, I think that's amazing. We're so happy for you that, yeah, of course, as you said, it was for you so sad and terrible to lose your wife for so many years, but we're so glad that you find her because you are happy with her right now, and we are so happy to have you both here today. Okay, so I think now we will start for some questions of the young people. Where I have like last question, but that would be maybe on the end of this interview. So I would like to give the word to the students that have questions. But before that, I don't know if teacher Sarah, do you want to say something?
No, I'm just pleased that I had the opportunity of speaking with you. That's very moving, especially from a country like Mexico. And you all look wonderful. Life is good in Mexico, right?
Yes, and if you can open your camera, all the students, it will be amazing. So Sidney can say hello to you and see you, right? And we can also take a photo of this meeting. I always take a photo of the meeting. So I think this is the moment. So if you can open your camera, so Sidney can say hello to you, and also we can take a photograph of this meeting. Please do it. I'm returning in my computer right now, so I can take the photo. So okay, just let me a minute.
Wow.
Oh yes, now I am here. Take the photo. So okay, just let me a minute. Yeah, I'm here. Okay, now I can see you. And Sidney, look how many students are watching you. So okay, we're going to take this photo. So please open your camera. Okay, I'm going to take the first photo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the second one. Now I am here. So okay, just let me a minute. Okay, yeah. Thank you, everyone that opened your camera. And then, okay, now I can see you. And Sidney, look how many students are watching you. So, okay, we're going to take. Do you hear me twice? I don't know what's happening. So please. Sorry, today the technology was bad to me, but yeah, we're good. Okay, so now we have some questions from the students, and you can also ask there, and we are going to give you the word, so you can ask Sidney. So let me see, because okay, yeah, here in the chat we have some questions. I think oh my God, I lost them because I came into another computer, but Isaac, can you copy them and send it to me, please? Pero bueno, okay. If someone has a question, you can put your hand up and ask Sidney now. Let's see. Okay, Rodrigo, yeah, you can open your microphone. Come on.
Yes, I have a question. Sidney, for how long have you been in the US?
Since 1951.
31 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodrigo and Sidney, for answering. Okay, Diana has here a question. I will also read the other ones, but now Isaac is going to send it to me. So Diana, you can open your microphone.
Can you hear me?
No, I think it's a little bit lower.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, now.
I have a question. Do you still have any regrets?
Do you still have, do you have regrets about what?
Do I have regrets? Yes, I do. I have.
A fear or like a
I should have been more.
for the national for to someone?
Is there a question?
If you have any like I don't know, like a fear that you can go again to the place because you feel strange or you feel sad, something like that.
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I
Were
think
you-
the internet was a little bit. But teacher, if you want to say that question, please.
I think Diana was trying to say, were you scared of returning to the concentration camps many years later?
It was, I was wondering how I would feel. I felt angry more than anything else, because I was 14 years old, and why was I put into the camp? What have I done? So, yeah.
Yes, because, well, I read in your book that when you went to Buchenwald again, for example, you have that photo, no, that I put that it meant a lot to you when you were like getting out from the camp, right? Can you tell us about that? Like feeling you had?
When I was back at Buchenwald?
Yes, when you returned to Buchenwald and you were able to go, outside the camp by yourself. You had that freedom of going out.
Yeah, I had, there was a gate that opens up and goes both ways. And when I was with Ruthie, I went out, set my foot into the camp, and then I went off away from the camp, out of the camp. And I thought to myself, that was really fantastic. I don't have to be a prisoner anymore. I'm free to come in and I'm free to go out. So that was good. This is the gate. This is where.
Yes, and obviously for you that maybe that meant a lot to you, right? Because like mentally you were free, like, well, obviously physically too. You were, okay, I am visiting this terrible place that it was frightening to me because I had to live horrors here, but I know now that I am free, right? That's what you
Right.
feel.
Right,
So,
it was emotionally important because I could be free. I didn't have to be behind any gate. You know, I was free to come and I was free to go. And
yes,
this was wonderful.
exactly. Okay. Thank you, Sidney. We have a question from Nelly. Nelly, you can open your microphone.
That's not my name. That's my mom's name, but I couldn't change to mine for some reason. My name is Daniela. My question is like, what was your favorite meal as a child? You know, something your mom would cook for you and your siblings. I think there's a Polish dish called pierogi, something like that. So I don't know.
What was your favorite dish that
What
your
was-
mom made?
What'd you say?
What was your favorite dish that your mom made for you? That you liked? What was your favorite food as a child before the Holocaust?
I'm not sure, but I think I love potato pancakes.
He still loves potato pancakes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we know that in Poland, it's we like potato is a thing that it's so used, you know, in the when doing dishes and all this. So yeah, maybe it's a good memory about your childhood. Okay, well, we have the hand of Owina that maybe she wants to ask something. She's one of our followers of the project. So Owina, do you want to ask something?
Yes, I would like to ask Sidney if he suffered a survivor's guilt, and did he have to go through a therapy for the stress, the post-traumatic stress syndrome? Did he go through therapy, or did he do everything on his own? Go through the whole pain on his own?
No, I had, I went into therapy. I've been in this therapy probably 20 years. I still see a psychiatrist. I take antidepressants, but I'm good. You know, I feel happy. But yes, I've been in therapy for many years. I don't know how much good it did me, but that was the.
Well, congratulations, you could deal with it that way. And have you found telling your story is therapeutic?
Yes, that's a good question, because that's the essence, telling the story. And telling the story makes me feel good. And I feel the same way right now, that I have the opportunity of doing this, you know, to you young people, because we're not going to be here. And you won't have a live witness. So I feel good about that, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing. Appreciate that.
Great. I, send the best wishes. And you live in Arizona. Were you able to go to Los Angeles and participate in the Holocaust project, where they made the 3D images of survivors and went through the session of questioning and preserved their whole story as if they were alive? That project is very interesting. Were you able to participate?
No, my daughter Ruth is very aware of it, because she is a deacon at at Houston Holocaust Museum. Houston or Dallas? Dallas.
No, Florida. The Florida Holocaust Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're doing something. It's extremely expensive, so you have to have a sponsor, I guess, because it's thousands of dollars. And
Yes.
you know what? I'm not crazy about it. It still feels to be artificial. When I know the man is dead and he's talking like he's alive, you know, but it's okay. That's what they want.
Well, thank you so much for being present
Thank you.
and go on, you know, to be well
Yeah.
and enjoy your life. You really merit this enjoyment.
Thank
And abrazotes from Mexico. You know, hugs from Mexico.
Thank you. Yes.
Like I said, this is my best friend in Tucson. He went to the Holocaust, and his name is Powell. That's like a Mexican name, right?
Oh, wow.
Powell, and he came to Mexico, allowed him to come in after the war. So this is nice.
Yes. Okay, here in the chat, we have another question from Nayeli Cabrera. You can open your microphone.
Yes.
Nayeli, let's see.
How come there's no British?
Nayeli, yeah, you can open your microphone. If you can, it will be nice to see you, but if not, don't worry.
Okay, I have a question. From your perspective, how do you think the world has changed since the Holocaust?
What was the question?
From your perspective, how do you think the world has changed since the Holocaust happened?
A little bit. I think a little bit. I don't think we have a Holocaust. Or we are going to have a Holocaust, but it's not good. There's so much hatred. The people want to kill each other. It just doesn't make sense. You know, you want to live together and in harmony. But it's a dangerous time. I never thought that in America I would say that, but there's so much evil.
Yes, I think that's so true, and that's why we should learn, right? For example, about what happened to you and the Holocaust, so we as young people can't repeat that. Andrea Meacham, she has a question. Well, I don't know if it's the one that it's in the chat. I think he already answered the one about the psychologist and therapy. But Andrea, if you have another question, you can open your microphone.
Oh, sorry. It's pronounced Meacham.
Meacham, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I have another question. I don't know if you already answered. Sorry, my internet is so bad. But how was like the treatment in the camp? How did they treated you?
Well, it was as terrible as you can imagine. Even in the ghetto, they would pick you up off the street. They did that to my cousins, take them off to work, and we'd never see them again. It would come in and shoot people. I was hiding once, and I saw it just shot the man in the ghetto like for nothing. And he laughed. And so it was degrading. It was inhuman. But we learned to survive. We always have. You know, we learned to survive. And we survived in the ghetto. but there was worse things than the ghetto. You know, what was the Nazis' decision to murder all Jews. And that's what, in 1942, that's where it began, with the trains, always with the trains.
Yes.
I'm really sorry. I imagine that is something horrible. Really, I can't imagine how it feels. I know that it's horrible, but I'm really sorry, and I'm glad that you're okay now. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yes, it was, of course, as we said, terrible, but now we can learn from his story. So thank you, Andrea. I think we have another question that I think it's so important from Nelly, well, Daniela, that she put it on the chat, so you can open your microphone. Nelly, well, Daniela.
Do you have any advices for younger generations?
Do you have any advice for the younger generation?
My advice is to be active, not to let them go, to be active, to really, you know, to register to vote, and to be active, because that's their future. I see a lot of that in America. There's lots of young people that are very active in electing people and criticizing and supporting. There's a lot of movement here, so it's not going to happen in spite of the hate. The more people are decent and nice.
Maybe just one or two more questions.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we actually we are running out of time also, but yes, I don't know if some of the other student that hasn't made a question. I don't know if anyone else has a question, so we can have the opportunity to give the opportunity to someone that hasn't question. Let's see. You can open your microphone or your hand. If not, okay, I'm going to ask you because I also saw that you won an award because of telling your story. Can you tell us about that award that you won?
Ruthie, would you tell him that?
Okay. So this was in Canada. Is called the Philip Weiss Award for Storytelling. And it was several years ago, and they nominated, and he won this award. Yeah, it was the Storytelling for Peace and Human Rights. And it was really exciting too, because he went there with two of his grandchildren, my son Ike and my niece Barry. And so they accompanied him to the storytelling festival. And so he got to tell his story there, and also to some classes in Canada. And he was introduced by his grandchildren.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I think that's amazing too, that he won this prize because of telling his story. I don't know if anyone else of the students have another question, or teacher Sarah, if you want to also ask or say something.
I think this has been an amazing time listening to Mr. Sidney, your story, and I really hope that all of our students continue to remember what you've said and remember the things that you've shared with us. And we just thank you so, so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
okay.
Are we done?
Okay, just for finishing this, I will give you, let's see, okay. I will read you a surprise I made for you, Sidney, because I always write a little poem for the people that I interview. So I will read to you this, this little poem, okay? I hope you like it. Of course, it's named The Boy Who Refused to Die, and it says, Sebek was just a child. Everything seemed so right, but the war shook up his life. He did everything to survive. Now Sidney tells his story as a witness of the horror and cry, but he is hope to every auditory, standing as the boy who refused to die. Oh. I am so thankful with you, Sidney. Mr. Sidney, thank you so much. I hope you liked this little poem. I will send it to you.
That's very nice.
And we are so grateful, so happy that you told us your story. Thank you so much. Really, we really appreciate this. And I think the students will be writing something for their homeworks about your life. So that will be amazing too, to read them. And I will recommend everyone to read the book of Sidney, that it's called Sebek and the Holocaust, The Boy Who Refused to Die. It's amazing. Actually, it's like easy to read because it's, well, it's kind of short, but it's so amazing and detailed. So I will recommend you to read this book. You can buy it in Amazon. Actually, it can come to Mexico. I will send you in the chat the link to Amazon. And in the chat, everyone is saying, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time. It's so nice. Thank you for telling us your story. It was so interesting and of course, sad. So thank you so much. And everyone can open your camera and microphone to say thank you to Sidney and goodbye. But yes, thank you so much.
Oh. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone can say goodbye and thank you to Mr. Sidney.
Thank
you, Mr. Sidney. Goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and for the ones that are still here, you can go and follow our project here. Well, I know that there's not a lot of people here, but okay. If you want to follow the project and all interviews, you can go follow my project, that is the Voice of the Silence, and also the ones that collaborate with us, such as Diario Judío, that is here, Isaac, and From the Depths, that is another organization about the Holocaust. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ruth, Sidney. Thank you, Teacher Sarah, and Blas Pascal School for everything. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.